This is the 5th video in our formatting series, and today we're going to talk about adding images to your book with something called the bleed feature. And no, I did not make that up. That's actually what it's called. I'll explain why in a second. But the reason this is so valuable for self-published authors to know is that knowing how to put an image in your book can help you put in simple things like your title page or your author photo, or things that are more complicated if you know how to use the bleed feature, such as a book map or character art or tons of other fun things that we're going to go into in this video today. We're going to start with the things that are easier, and then we'll move into the more complicated side of things, which is that bleed feature that I mentioned. Let me pause the video for 1 second. I should rewind really quick and introduce myself. My name is Bethany Atazadeh. I am your professor in this free mini masterclass. Free for you at least. YouTube is paying me, so thank you in advance for watching the videos all the way through, for liking, subscribing, sharing with your friends. All of these things are like a free tip jar, so it really helps my channel. Thank you so much in advance. And it's looking like it's gonna be a very full class. So let me introduce you to our TA real quick. This is my teaching assistant, Google. She is super helpful. She's available at all hours of the day and night, and she has pretty much endless resources. So I'm gonna be honest with you, even though I am the professor of this course, she knows more than I do. You can definitely ask me questions if you'd like, but I gotta be honest with you, I'm pretty much sharing every single bit of information that I know in this course. So I may often end up referring you to her because she actually knows quite a bit more than I do. There are 5 quick things you should know before class starts. Number 1, I will be reading from my notes here on my computer pretty carefully, since this is a very complicated subject and I don't want to miss anything. So if you see me looking down, that's why. Number 2, I am only able to share what I know and what I have chosen to do. So just like everything else in publishing and writing, there's probably a million and one different ways to do formatting. This is just my personal experience. So despite this incredibly professional course where you're going to come out with a bachelor's degree in formatting, I actually have no formal training, and I'm basing everything off of my own experience formatting over 10 different novels, and sometimes learning things through what they call trial by fire. So again, I don't know everything about formatting, but I am going to share as much as possible in this series, and for everything else, I'm going to point you to my fabulous TA, Google, for any support questions you might have. Number 3, I use this gorgeous template that has built-in formatting already set up, and I highly recommend it. I'll talk more about this template throughout this series, so make sure you watch all the videos in this series if you want to know more. Number 4. Oh yeah, did I mention that this is a series? I'm going to put all the videos in this formatting series into a playlist on YouTube that I will link below every single video. If you want to go back and watch any videos that you missed, you can find that in the description box below. Last but not least, number 5, I am going to timestamp all the videos in this series as much as possible, which means that you can look at the bottom of the video to see what is in each section, and that way you can easily go back and forth and find something again if you need to watch it a second time later or a third time. But I just want to encourage you not to skip around the first time, because you might miss something really important and I don't want you to be confused. Okay, back to the video. All right, I'm going to take you to my screen. I'm going to show you the enchanted crown. So this, what you see here, is actually a photo. So this is what's called a PNG file, which means that it's not a full square photo. It's just the font. That makes sense. Look into PNG if you don't know what I'm talking about. And so let's pretend it's not there and I want to insert it. I'm going to click insert at the top left here. I'm going to go down to the picture option and I'm going to take a picture from my file. I get asked about this gorgeous font that I'm about to show you whenever I post pictures of my book on Instagram, but the thing is that this is not a font that I am typing in myself. This is specifically from my cover designer, because if you watch my 10 basic formatting rules video, then you know it's really important for your title page to match your book cover page. So for example, that is the font for the Stolen Kingdom book, and this is that exact same font, but of course in black instead of in gold, on the inside of the book. So to insert it, you're literally just going to click your photo. But as you can see already, it's not exactly the placement that it was before, and it's also the wrong size. So the next thing you want to do is when you click on it, you can grab the corners and you can make it larger. But now you'll notice that it is going off the page. So to fix that, you're going to right click you're gonna go down to the wrap text option. Usually I just click one of these. Now, once you have a wrap text feature, whatever feature you picked on it, you can now click that same thing, right click, wrap text, and over down at the very bottom, fix position on page. And now, see this little anchor at the top there? Whenever you put your picture somewhere, that's where it's going to stay. You have the room to maneuver it around on the page. So now I like to put it kind of in the center there, but you have to keep the margins, the printing margins in mind. You can't make it too big. So I'll kind of play with it, and it does have a little bit of white space on the edges of it anyway. But if I am ever wondering, you know, how is this gonna print, you can look at this thumbnail size over here, or you can zoom out and look at it and think, okay, that looks pretty good. I feel like, you know, you could even mess with it from here and make it a little bit smaller. Now let's go to the end of the book. I don't want you guys to be able to read it, so I'm shrinking it way down. But typically with my front and back matter at this point, I just copy and paste it from a previous book into the new book and play with that. But for the sake of this video, I'm going to show you how I add. I'm going to go back to Insert, Picture, Picture from File, and we're going to add my author bio picture. I'm going to add in a black and white author bio picture. So my next tip for you is make sure that the photos that you include are black and white, unless you want to pay more for printing. But let's say, for example, you don't have a black and white photo and you don't know how to make your author photo or a different, maybe a character art photo, black and white. It's very easy. You would want to probably duplicate it instead of changing your original. And once you have a duplicate, you're gonna go into Adjust Color. And then within the Adjust Color option, saturation means color, so you're going to simply remove it. Bring it all the way to the side, and now you have a black and white photo. If you wanted to, you could also play with the contrast, exposure, highlights, shadows, etc. But honestly, if you have a quality photo already, you just need to make it black and white. Don't forget to save it as the black and white option, and then you can go ahead and add that to your document. All right, so that's your basic way to insert photos. But now what about inserting photos that you want to go all the way to the edge of the page, AKA past the margins? Because if you don't do the specific step I'm about to teach you, your print-on-demand company would reject something like this. It would say, no, this photo is going outside of the margins, it's outside of the safe printing area, and they would automatically reject something like this and not allow you to print your book. So to get something like a book map, or even something like another book cover or a character art that extends past the acceptable margins, that safe area that I mentioned to you, you're gonna have to use something called the bleed feature. And I hinted at this at the beginning of the video, and I mentioned very clearly that I did not come up with this. But the idea of the bleed feature is that it simply means you're letting that print-on-demand company know that you're okay with the image bleeding off the page, going into the margins, outside of the safe area, into that bleed zone, so to speak. And the first step to do this, which I hinted at when we talked about resizing your book, is that you actually need to choose an interior size that is slightly larger than your exterior size. So this book is printed on the print-on-demand company as a 5x8, but when I go into my Word document, now you're seeing my screen, we're back in the Enchanted Crown, which is currently, I believe, a 5x8, which is not correct for the bleed feature. When I want to add the book map to this, if I submitted it to the print-on-demand company as is, as an 8x5, they would reject it. So what I'm gonna do is go over to Document, and then you're gonna click on Page Setup. Now this is what I showed you in the video all about sizing and resizing your book. So right now it says it's sized for a 5x8, and that's the title that I gave it, but it also says 5.00 by 8.00 inches here at the bottom as well. So what I'm gonna do is click on that, scroll down. I'm sorry, I have so many things in here that you can't even see the button I'm gonna click, but it says Manage Custom Sizes. So we're gonna click on that. You can see that I've made some custom sizes here on the left already, and I'm gonna show you in a second how to do this. But first, let me take you over to the internet to KDP, where I actually learned all about the bleed feature. I would highly recommend you scroll through this and you do some research on it, because they describe the bleed feature right here, and they give you a lot of information about it, as well as some mistakes that might happen. And then they help you go in and how to calculate both your cover size and your interior formatting size. So that's where we're gonna go and focus on right down here in the interior specifications. If you have no bleed, you don't need to put in a map or anything that's going to go outside the margins. You just use the size that you actually want your book to be. But if you want to include bleed, this is where they give you information. to extend it by 0.125 inches beyond the actual trim size. If you want to know more, there's tons and tons and tons of information here that I think is going to be really valuable to you, but we're going to keep this surface level, and I'm just going to go ahead and go back to Word and show you how to do this. I made a bunch of them here. Okay, so that's not right. I'm going to delete that. Okay, and this one says it's 5 by 8, but it's actually the correct size as well. And this one says actual 5 by 8, so that I could differentiate. So I think I'm just gonna delete that one too. So this was me testing, figuring it out. You can play with it, and then once you get it to the size that you want, you can always go and check if you have, oops, cancel. I almost forgot. I almost always do this where I forget to change it to the whole document. That leads to my final tip, which is to always order a proof copy. You would want to do that anyway. I always recommend ordering a proof copy because you might be surprised by some unexpected formatting things that happen that do not look good when you see your physical copy of your book. But in this specific instance, it can be especially finicky, and you can have some very unexpected surprises, things that do not look right. And so I always recommend ordering a proof copy, which is exactly what it sounds like, a copy of your book that you proof or proofread before you publish. That way you don't have any awkward moments when your book is published and it looks terrible. Even if it ends up turning out amazing, it's always good to order it just to be safe. And then also, of course, you can use that proof copy to proofread it, which is what it's for in the first place. So if you want to know more about proof copies, I have an entire video all about how I do proof copies and where you can order them and how you can set that up. I will add that to the formatting playlist series below if you want to watch that after this video. As you can see, adding images is trickier than you would think, so I hope this video has made it smoother for you. If you do add images to your book, I would love to see them. If you ever want to tag me on Instagram. And this video is also going to be closely connected to the next video in this series on chapter headers specifically, and making chapter header images that might even include artwork that are especially fancy. And so these two videos are going to work hand in hand together. So let's go into that video next.